What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to Viper Vibes, episode 1, the new podcast that I'm launching here on WNC Venom. Today we have a very special guest, our first guest ever, Chris Alexander. Chris, welcome, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chris and I have known each other for a while now. We are both in the reptile hobby, and Chris is also starting a YouTube channel. Chris, what was your inspiration for getting into reptiles?
I have really two inspirations for reptiles. And, well, one was my granddad, and this is going to sound kind of funny. My granddad was a really big influence on my life and how I lived my life. And, he always used to say how he wanted to get into snakes and he wanted to get a boa constrictor.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of really started from there. But my wanting to keep snakes honestly came from watching Brian Barczyk's videos back in late elementary school, early middle school, all the way through high school.
Okay.
So that's kind of where my passion kind of began.
That's awesome. I watched a lot of Brian's videos myself. Sorry, I'm sharing the stream out real quick. I'm a one-man show here, so I'm trying to share this out far and wide. I was really into it. Man, what happened with Brian was really, really tragic. It really was.
It really was.
Pancreatic cancer is terrible, and he was very well liked and very well respected in the reptile community and in the hobby. And his facility is still being built. He is, and his legacy will live on.
I had tickets to go in December, but we ended up canceling. Not last minute, obviously, but we canceled a couple months ago. Because
gotcha.
I wanted to wait till Legacy was open and go to both.
Yeah, I would have liked to have went, but there was no way that I could get up there. But once the new facility's built, I will try my best to get up there. So I've been, for me, it's funny. I've been in the reptile hobby for a minute, but not really in the community very long. I got into reptiles through ball pythons. They were my gateway drug. So my
king snake for mine.
Right. King snake. That was your first snake ever?
My first king snake was a lavender Florida king snake, and her name was Sunshine. And my second was a Texas rat snake. Then my third was a red tail. Then a Honduran milk. Then I moved on to some other stuff. Personally, my favorite that I've worked with so far has kind of been my reticulated python. Not only, just because of her good temperament, but they're really intelligent snakes.
Incredibly.
They're really curious. They get a bad rep because they're kind of like king snakes in a way. They have that really, really crazy appetite, and when it's food time, they're kind of wild. But for the most part, that's the only time I've had any type of moments with my retic was feeding time.
Yeah. For me, the ball python was my gateway drug. I got so my significant other at the time got a couple of ball pythons, and as I got more involved in their care and just being around them, I really, really grew to love them, and I understood then because I was raised to believe that snakes are scary, snakes are evil, snakes want to kill us, they are something that should be feared. I mean, I was raised that way. I love my parents, love my mom and dad, but they raised me to fear snakes, irrationally. And I did. So being exposed to, and in the hobby, they're kind of like, we kind of shit all over them for some reason. I don't know why, because they're fantastic snakes.
Right.
But ball pythons are great starter snakes, and that's what really got me into that world. And from there, I kind of went all over the place, and now I've got a lot of elapids and vipers, and still do have a couple of ball pythons here with me. I've had a bunch of I've even had rat snakes and stuff, but so you keep venomous too, correct?
Yeah, I have. Well, not at my house currently, but I have some venomous. A buddy of mine has an. He's keeping an Eastern Diamondback for me.
Nice.
My timber. Um, I kind of made my family a promise that I wouldn't, bring anything like that in the house.
Sure.
So I have a friend who keeps my venomous stuff for me.
Nice.
I do go and work with them quite often. He'll change water bells and stuff for me when I'm not able to come over and things like that. But yeah, I kind of fell in love with the Easterns and the Timbers, and eventually I plan on breeding the hybrid batlings.
Yeah.
Which that's also a very touchy subject in the reptile community. I'm not personally against breeding anything as long as it's healthy. I'd say, like the spider ball pythons and stuff like that. As long as it's not having issues with its ability to function,
Right.
and like I wouldn't take a desert dwelling snake and breed it to a tropical snake. I feel like maybe that would be a little concerning, just because you're breeding snakes from two different parts of the two different they're from two different areas,
and I don't even know that would be possible. Maybe it would. I don't know. I'm personally not opposed to breeding any kind of hybrids. Again, like with what you said, as long as they're healthy and they can function and they have a good quality of life, I'm all for it. The only hybrid I have right now is a cottonhead. I have which is a copperhead cottonmouth hybrid. For those of you that don't know, those do exist, and they can happen in captivity. Now, we've never seen that. I'm not saying that they couldn't, but we've never observed it in nature. Generally, because copperheads and cottonmouths don't den together. They don't tend to. Yeah, they don't tend to live in the same habitats. But they are both in the Echistrodon genus, and they can interbreed. I am working on procuring.
Also, cottonmouth.
Yeah. And they don't chase you. They won't chase you.
No, they don't.
What's up, Battle 66674? A venomous keeper here in Spartanburg. Black Snake's garters and red tails were there first. I don't know if it's a he or she, but that's awesome. That's awesome. I have a garter. I've got a red-sided garter, and I love it. I love that snake. It's beautiful. It's not got a very good temperament, though. It is super flighty. It's not bitey. It is super flighty, though, and every time I interact with that snake, all it wants to do is get away and shit all over me.
So
all it does.
I won't lie to you. I had this one snake who I could not, for the life of me, I could not touch it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, not only would it bite, it would musk, and I tried working with it, and, I gave it. This was when I was a little bit newer to the hobby, so I gave it to someone more experienced that works with it because, I was still new. So I was like, I can't get this animal to calm down. I don't want it to constantly be stressed out. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure the one I got, even though it was advertised on Morph Market as CBB. Captive born, I'm pretty sure it was wild caught. Yeah, pretty sure it was. It does not, of course, I don't know. I mean, its temperament could be whatever, but it is insane. It is a psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're. I love garter snakes though. Man, their poop is pretty terrible smelling, and that thing, it's a female. I'm pretty sure she's gravid too. Actually, my friend, I have another friend, Christopher, who is going to be on here too sometimes, and he's local. He has the mate to this snake, and I'm pretty sure she's gravid. But except red tail.
Okay.
Battle 66674 says except
Which
red
is
tails.
interesting with them because they give live birth.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of the coolest things.
They I'm a big fan of garters, and I think if you're getting into the venomous world and you want to start keeping venomous and you want to keep elapids, especially, getting a colubrid is a great way to learn how to handle and deal with an elapid because they're flighty, they're crazy, they act a lot alike.
I would definitely say if you want to get into anything, like I can't own anything like where I live. I can't own your cobras and stuff like that.
Right.
I can only own native stuff. But if you want to get into stuff like cobras and stuff, I've always heard that mangrove snakes are, they're rear fang venomous, so they're still venomous, but they're good to kind of for more advanced keepers who plan on getting in. If you plan on getting into, your front fixed fangs or your pit vipers, stuff like that, because they are known to bite. They have to chew on you. Those guys have to chew on you to get their venom in you. But
to get a good bite, they can inject
stuff
venom
like
quickly.
bitey colubrids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've
which
that's a great way to get into
with them,
elapids.
I feel like right. I feel like, if you want to get into venomous, I would also definitely take up time with someone who is local near you that keeps venomous and
get those hours
definitely
in.
make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, get those hours in. Work with someone.
Definitely know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, have someone mentor you because, I mean, the thing with venomous snakes, man, is they're just like non-venomous snakes, but they have consequences. That's the difference. They're just like a non-venomous,
right,
but they have consequences. Oh no, YouTube is not responding. Yeah. Sorry, the stream is being so. For anybody who is watching right now, I have Starlink internet because we were just demolished by a hurricane. Hurricane Helene literally destroyed the town I live in. I mean, literally destroyed it. So I'm operating all of my stuff from a Starlink, so it's not quite as good as the fiber I used to have. So just bear with me if the video is choppy or whatever. Please forgive me for that, but hopefully that won't be the case.
No, I thought we got it bad here in South Georgia, but I feel bad for some of the people in Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm in North
Carolina.
Carolina.
Broke my heart to see a lot of that.
Man, it was really, really bad. I went ahead and bagged up and got all my snakes up for the actual storm. I followed basically the same protocol that they do in Florida. Double bagged them, then I secured them in totes, brought them in the house, and once the storm was over, my reptile room, which is outside, it's separate from my house, it was totally fine. It came away unscathed, as did all my property, with the exception of some trees falling. So I got out very lucky. But I put everybody back in their enclosure.
Same here. We mostly...
What's up, Jonna? Jonna asks, how is Boris today? Boris is
We really
fine.
got lucky, too.
Good. Yeah, the last thing I want is for a green mamba or a monocle cobra to be loose in Spruce Pine, North Carolina. That would not be good. That would be really bad in my community, and my neighbors would not like that. So, but I got everybody.
I kind of just pick,
Sorry, the stream's
kind of
being
just picture
crazy
your
again.
neighbor going outside.
Yeah, my
Can you
neighbors.
just imagine being someone's neighbor who keeps snakes,
Oh
casually
my
walk
god.
outside? Hey, there's a green marble, but there's the what?
Yep. Yep. No. So my neighbors have all seen my snakes, with the exception of one who is terrified of snakes and he hasn't seen them. But they all, I purposely showed them the snakes so they can see just how secure they are. That they're under lock and key, and there is no chance of them escaping. So,
Right.
yeah. But got everybody back out, and I was without power for a couple of days before I was able to procure a generator. So, yeah, I did lose some babies. Battle 6674 says, yeah, we were without power for over a week, but definitely nothing compared to you guys. Praying for y'all. You must be around Chimney Rock. Thank you, Battle. Yes, I am very close to Chimney Rock, actually. So I'm in western North Carolina, right on the Tennessee border, about an hour outside of Asheville, and it absolutely does. I got power back 14 days after the storm, but once I procured a generator, I had a generator to power my entire house, which powered my reptile room also, because it's on that same, shares that same breaker box. But that was crazy. I'm just glad that no snakes were loose.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing, especially with.
Right. Right. So for any of my neighbors that are watching,
So
you know that my snakes are secured.
you keep monitor cobras. Have
Yes.
you ever thought about keeping king cobras? Which I know they're not like a true cobra species, but
Right. No, I've not, and the
okay.
reason being is because they are just a little outside of my comfort zone size
A
wise.
lot bigger.
They are so much bigger, and my reptile room is small.
Ah,
I don't have room to put an enclosure big enough for a king that I would feel that they would live a good quality of life in. Um, I would want to
that's
keep
admirable.
I would want to keep a king in a really, really big, almost a walk-in enclosure. And my reptile room is 10 by 20, so there's just not enough room for a snake that size. The mamba I have is the biggest snake or the longest snake I have, and her enclosure is almost too small for her, I feel like. So she's going to be getting an upgrade soon.
See, that's the thing I want to do with my pythons, and I'm gonna get green anacondas and stuff like that for my zoo. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Tell me a little bit
I
about
don't want to have
that.
too much of one species.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, what I want to do is inspired by Brian, kind of have the reptarian type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I do this, I want to make sure that because okay, so pretty much my goal is to have each rep, have some different species, a bunch of different snakes, some monitors.
Mm-hmm.
But I work with monitors, so I personally don't want to get them until I have someone in the zoo that can work with them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't feel like I could do the research, put the work in, and get experience with monitors, but until then, until I can make these rooms and stuff like this for these animals, I don't want to go too crazy. Um, just I want to make sure that I have themed enclosures. So, like
Right.
for
Right.
my tropical stuff, based off the animal where it's from, I want to have them in sections. So, like zoos, how you have your, I don't know if some zoos do this, but like have your, the snakes from Africa on one spot, your Asian stuff from one spot,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
your South your South America, your South American and your North American snakes in one spot. Because I want to, kind of have a theme with the zoo. So, like your stuff from Africa, it would have its own area, its own theme. Your stuff from Asia, that area would have its own theme. The South and North American stuff would have its own theme.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as well as the individual enclosures would have their own themes, but the North American room and the South American room may look different than your, I'm not sure exactly how I want to, differentiate it yet, but I saw an idea from a friend of mine who I told that, like, hey, dude, I want to do this reptile zoo, essentially kind of like what Brian Barczyk has.
Right.
He said, well, no hate on Brian's zoo. I get, it's kind of chaotic and things are hard to like, especially with not that he has everything and like, I just want to have everything based off my autism and stuff like that. I kind of like to have things organized a certain type of way. And
Mm-hmm.
I want them separated because Brian has his, I feel like, kind of spontaneous. And this isn't like a shot at Brian or anything. Me personally, I just like it organized a lot, like a certain type of way.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way Brian does his zoo. I feel like I said, for the area for the North American stuff, kind of like how Brian has everything with the universal rock outline around all of his enclosures. I kind of want to do something similar to that, but maybe with different tree types. Like here in America, we have, in North America, we have like your redwood trees from California. Here we have oak wood and stuff like that, and all the in between types of things. As like the veneer for the enclosures, the surrounding the enclosures is maybe wood or certain types of rock, things like that that outline the enclosure. But also want it to be you to be able to differentiate. Other than the sign that'll say North American reptiles, South American, African, stuff like that. Other than that, I want to, when you walk into this room, like, hey, this is a tropical area. This is pretty cool. Hey, this is more like your swamp land, wetland areas, stuff like that. I want you to kind of be able to tell somewhat where kind of, oh, these are tropical snakes or, and my idea was for the ground dwelling species to be like lower to the ground, the stuff that kind of climbs and stuff like that. I want it to be kind of like in the middle, like, so the bottom area would be for like your bottom area here would be for the ground dwelling species, your fossorial species, and then kind of work my way up. So then you have your like certain snakes that don't really live in the trees. They're known to go in the trees and things like that. So they would be like in the middle.
Your arboreal stuff.
It's kind of like right. Then you'd have your arboreal stuff, the stuff that lives up higher. Kind of like that. Now, none of these animals will be able to get near each other. They'll be in separate enclosures, but like I said, all the ground dwelling, mid range, and then your arboreal stuff would be up top. Now, what I was thinking of doing was having my anaconda be the centerpiece of my South American, my big green anacondas. Having a decent sized pool for them to be in. And then in like maybe like the middle, and then there's like a bridge across.
Yeah.
Or on the back side of the enclosure, there would be like, notice how like in America we have the cypress trees that their roots kind of grow out and over, something like that for a hide for the green anacondas.
Oh yeah.
Different plants, tropical environments, stuff like that would be what I would do for them.
Right.
My retics, same with them. They like to swim. My goal is pretty much to, even if I have to do it enclosure by enclosure, I want to give these animals the best enclosures that I can.
Sure. Well, especially if you're operating a zoo. So has your do you have plans for where the zoo is going to be located?
I'm thinking here in Georgia, where I live, in the town
Right.
I'm living in. Um, but I'm also open to ideas. What I'm thinking is I want to start more than one location. Start with a small opening location and then do multiple locations, or just with that one location in this one area, just work on like kind of like Brian's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not directly across the road, but eventually making it a bigger place. My goal isn't to eventually own an aquarium. I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't mind having a fish, like a predatory fish area,
Mm-hmm.
but mine would be more focused on the reptiles. I feel
Gotcha.
like,
Yeah.
reptiles kind of they're one of the most controversial animals on this planet. And
They certainly do
they're very
elicit a. They certainly do elicit a reaction from
from people,
everybody. Yeah,
right?
they really do. Um,
And you have some people who are genuinely born with the fear. You have people that are instilled, that fear is instilled from them, from like you said, like your family used to be afraid of them.
mm-hmm.
People teach you that they're bad. Um, my goal is to, it's not to like.
Thank you.
My goal is to educate people. Um, my goal is to kind of show people these animals aren't what they're portrayed to be in movies or on
Right.
TV. You see these, which it's not necessarily the python's fault that they're in Florida. It's not
Right.
necessarily irresponsible keepers either. A lot of the pythons were released via hurricane, so
Yes. Yes.
they
From zoos and stuff.
now there. Don't get me wrong, there are irresponsible keepers that may have
Sure.
released snakes and stuff, and there are instances where snakes get out. Now, can you always ensure that something might not get out? Not every time, but that's reasons try to we try to as a snake keeper, you're never going to fully be able to prevent anything.
Right. Right.
Things can happen, animals can pass away, and that's something I feel like the reptile hobby needs to show more. It's not necessarily to put a bad limelight or make the reptile hobby look bad, because we have a lot of things going on in this hobby right now that are making it hard for actual decent keepers, people who
Oh
are
man,
doing things the right way. We
dude.
need to,
Yeah, the
we
venomous
need some
hobby
positive
now
writing.
is a dumpster fire at the moment. Like it is just chaos.
Right.
After the
Jeff
taipan,
situation.
yeah, the taipan bite, and with Jeff, and there's so much. And I'm not going to go into any of that, but it is absolutely
Yeah.
insane right now. And it's kind of funny to sit back and watch, but at the same time, it's not, because these this affects all of us, and it affects our ability to keep these animals to some degree. Battle six six
Right.
seven four in the chat, it says it's usually love or hate, nothing in between. You're absolutely right. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
in the chat he even says Jeff. Yeah, we all know.
Yeah.
we all know. We all know.
I will say this. I saw a lot of people, on both sides of that situation. And I kept it, kind of clear with the people that came to me about it. Like, at the end of the day, yes, he was being irresponsible, but he's still a human being. And I even saw you say something about it. Like you said you disagreed with his actions and his choices, but you gave him the respect that every human being deserves, which for me was a positive, because if you already look at a hobby or let's just say like for the United States for an example, I'm not going to get political or anything, but if you say, let's say the United States was already divided, they're, it's already divided and you have things going on, and that's all you get to see. You don't get to see the positive things or the people who are actually, doing the right thing. It's kind of hard to defend anything when that's all that's being portrayed to the media. And I feel like
Yeah.
we need a positive light on this hobby because it's already got enough bad light with escaped pets showing up all the time, or
Well,
irresponsible people doing things illegally,
not
things
only
like that. I
that,
feel like
it's just they're snakes, and snakes, again, people.
right, like you said, very polarizing. You either love them, people either love them or hate them.
Yeah.
There's really no in between. Well, I can't say that. I've seen people who aren't afraid of them. They don't really. They're afraid of them, but there's a difference between being afraid of something and if it. With people with snakes, it seems like snakes get it more so than like I won't say reptiles in general. It's mostly snakes.
It is, yeah. Lizards, well, that's because there's only, a handful of venomous lizards, and you generally don't hear about venomous lizards killing people, even though, of course, we had the instance in Arizona, I believe, this past year of maybe for the first time in recorded history. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but it seems like that would be the case, that a Gila monster actually killed its owner. A man died from a Gila monster bite. Battle in the chat, Battle 6674 says my biggest issue with this is the total lack of acknowledgement and the damage he's done, especially in South Carolina. I agree with that 100%. Jeff did a ton of damage.
I agree.
He did, and
he
hopefully
really messed things up.
Yeah,
he's going to.
Hopefully, nothing will come of that legally. Hopefully, there will be no legal ramifications for other keepers, because that's what it would be.
Especially since how it wasn't like a licensed person, someone who has the, keeping them properly, who has the legal ability to keep the animals and things like that. Hopefully,
he was keeping them legally, because in South Carolina, I don't think you have to have a license. I'm pretty sure. No, there's no licensing in South Carolina. It's a pretty wide open state in terms of the freedoms there, which is great. But that, hopefully he didn't change that. And I really wish that he would self-reflect. And that's all I'll say about it is I wish he would self-reflect a little bit about that.
It would be a different, right? Like it would be a different situation if he came out and like, I apologize, I was irresponsible. That might give a better light to the situation. I don't think it'll ever completely go away, but it'll definitely make the situation better.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Here's the thing, man. I've been bit. Full disclosure, I've been bit a handful of times by some of my hots. And, I think I made one video talking about a Enceladus bite, that my blue Enceladus bit me. But the other ones I did not publicize. I did not talk about, and because I don't want to draw any negative light. And I wasn't, here's the thing, now I wasn't doing what Jeff was. I wasn't, just showing off on YouTube, picking up a freaking inland taipan, or, my case, monocle cobra, or a, Enceladus or bush viper or anything.
If you just grab it by the body.
Right. Just grab it by the body. No, I wasn't trying to show off. Literally every time I've been bitten, I was taking, I was either removing an eye cap or stuck shed. For some reason, stuck shed is what always got me. So I don't do that anymore now. I just soak the snake and I let them get it off on their own. Because I don't want to live through that again. And I've got a family, and I've got my stuff going on too, so I don't want to take a bite. But Battle, yeah, you remember the Enceladus bite? That one sucked. What's up, Logan? How's it going? But yeah, the whole Jeff thing. Well, I really hope that he learns.
Yeah, me too. It feels like it'd be different if when he came up in his first video, wasn't not dead yet. Right. With Chandler's wildlife, we know Chandler can be irresponsible at times, and I'm not 100% sure as to why Chandler gets the hate he does.
Yeah,
other than some of the
I don't think Chandler's necessarily irresponsible. Logan, we're just talking. We're just hanging out. We are just discussing Jeffrey's bot, and I think I lost Chris. You there? Are you back?
Yeah, I'm
There
here.
we go. Okay. It froze up on me. Um, I don't think Chandler's
Okay.
necessarily. I don't think he's irresponsible. I think actually Chandler is one of the better keepers personally.
I don't even think he's a
Um,
bad keeper.
no, he's not a bad keeper. He free handles some of his snakes, and that's between him and his snakes and the good Lord. That is none of my
Well,
business.
see, and the thing with like that I don't understand about the reptile hobby is okay, I don't condone live feeding to snakes that will take frozen, you know, stuff like that, but you know, I have two I I guess you could say I have them. Like I said before, they're not currently in my home.
Hmm.
They're with a friend of mine, but they will not eat frozen thawed. They're not
Yeah.
interested in it. Even like they'll defensive strike it, but
Hmm.
they won't eat frozen thawed. So, um, you know, stuff like that I wouldn't post on YouTube. Oh, hey
Yeah.
bud.
Um, I
I
mean,
wouldn't
I
post like
have.
live feedings or anything.
Right. I have. I don't feed live very often. There's only a few snakes
But
only eat live, and I've posted some live feed videos, but I mean that really doesn't bother me. It's nature, man. Nature's brutal. Nature is brutal.
right.
I try not to feed live unless
See,
I
the
have to,
thing
though.
was like with the what was the nerd video about? Like, I noticed that nerd makes a lot of videos on people that they don't necessarily agree with.
Oh no.
And don't get me wrong, Kevin's a great keeper. Like Kevin and Nerd are awesome, but
Hmm.
I think we have enough people, enough even like not even just with the reptile community, like just in general, people can learn. I think people can learn to respect each other's. If people can learn to respect each other's differences, you know, like that would be a lot better. Just because you may not agree with
Sure.
somebody doesn't mean they're necessarily a bad keeper. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're mistreating your animals or like
Hmm.
stuffing them in small enclosures and right? And I understand animals grow, but if that's like right from the rip, you just have like a 4 foot snake in a 10 gallon, stuff like that, you
Hmm.
know. But like, um, I think that with the biggest problem with the reptile community is it's it's divided. You got, and not necessarily about who's right or wrong. Sometimes I feel like it's opinionated. People are very opinionated, and
Yeah.
their opinion of what's right and what's not kind of gets in their way of like, hey, we're a community, and this isn't like it's not like a it's not like a basketball team where you know
Yeah.
this is kind of like of a community where we really depend on each other. And I think if we could all learn to see from each other's perspectives and things like that,
I
it would
agree.
definitely.
All I will add to that is I'm in several communities. So I'm a musician. I have a political podcast too, and I'm in several communities. And man, I'll just say they're all like that. The guitar and the music world is every bit can be every bit as toxic or every bit as amazing as the reptile community. There every time that you're involved in a community, I use air quotes there because we're not really a community. We are, but we're not. But anytime you're involved with a group of people that shares common interest, you're gonna have that kind of division, and you're gonna have your bad actors, you're gonna have your assholes, you're gonna have your judgmental neckbeard know-it-alls. You're gonna have my biggest problem with the reptile community specifically the venomous community, is the gatekeeping. There's a lot of gatekeeping, and I don't like that because one reason and one reason
Right.
alone. If somebody
The
comes
more
to me,
knowledgeable people they won't take up the time to, show the newer people, like, we get it, you know what you're doing, but why not, instead of hating on the newer keepers, or
right,
instead of like saying, well, that's wrong, teach them, like, take up the time, like, don't. I've seen so many groups where people post reptile enclosures, and yeah, it may not have, it's not the worst. I've seen far worse than these people that are posting on these groups, like asking for recommendations. They give them at least a hide and a water bowl. I've seen some people that have a snake just with a water bowl in their enclosure and substrate. So, it's like, I've never understood that. It's like,
well,
instead of calling them out, message them like, hey, that might need a few little plants or some leaf litter here or something like that.
my thing is not so much even that. It's just okay. So somebody wants to get into venomous keeping. They've been keeping, say they've done everything right. They've got their hours in with all the non-venomous species. They've had their ball pythons, they've had their colubrids, they've had their constrictors, they've had their big emerald tree boas. So they're used to, they're very well versed in reptiles. There's still this you don't belong here in the venomous world. And here's my thing. It's like, okay, if somebody messaged me and were like, hey, I'm really interested in keeping venomous. I've been doing a lot of research. I've worked with reptiles for years. I'm thinking about getting a copperhead or a timber rattler or something like that. If I tell them,
Right.
hey, you don't need to do that, or if I'm a shithead to them and I don't take the time to explain things and encourage them to do things properly, they're still going to get the snake. I'm not going to stop them from getting the snake, but they're way more likely
like that.
to get hurt or hurt the snake if I don't take the time, me personally, to be like, hey, well, this is how I do things,
And that's what I feel like would benefit this reptile community a lot. Is not just the first time someone, makes a mistake, or, the slightest error, it's almost like a teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching a kid a lesson. Like, say you're teaching a kid, and, and you got kids more multiplication. You got a kid that's doing, a basic addition and subtraction. You're not gonna have. You shouldn't. First of all, those two kids. You should have that kid that's doing, the more advanced math, working with the kid, doing things like that. That's kind of the same way with the reptile community. Like you said, you're gonna wanna have your more advanced keepers. This is a hobby where knowledge is really like a majority of it. Don't get me wrong, like, you're gonna have to put some footwork in, but a majority of the requirements for keeping snakes and keeping them properly isn't, who can build the biggest and best and prettiest enclosure. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they need decent enclosures, but it's not about spending millions of dollars, trying to prove that you're the best keeper. It's, learning about these animals, appreciating them, which is why we've captivated them, because at one point, somewhere in history, some guy. Okay, you're putting your opinion in too? But, you're kind of wanting to, they obviously found these animals. They obviously found these animals to be captivating, and a random snake and kept it as a pet. Like, hey, that's really cool looking snake. I wonder what that would be like, having it all the time, getting to see how this animal lives and reacts. things like that
Right.
are definitely, definitely something that when your community,
I think we're
you got to start. You got to go back initially this whole thing,
we may be
and
having
that's
trouble with your internet
the.
connection.
Hang on one second. It's
It's
inside
cutting out.
my house that. It's sorry. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
I want to cut my Wi-Fi off for just a second and see if that's.
Okay. So yeah, everybody, please smash that like button. We lost Chris momentarily. He'll be back. We're gonna stream here for another few minutes, and then we'll call it a night. But smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let me know in the chat what your favorite snake is that you keep. If you keep snakes. You may not even keep snakes. You may just like snakes. I like them, and I keep them. I like to keep them. All right.
Hungry?
Andy's back. All right, cool.
Okay, I'm back.
All righty. Good deal. Good deal. So you're going to start a YouTube channel, yes? Or have you started a YouTube channel?
I have not started it yet.
Okay.
My goal is to pretty much. My goal is to. I want to sort of at least get a. I have a small collection at the moment. These are the snakes that I currently keep. I have a ball python, a blood python, a retic, a king snake, California king snake. Unfortunately, I can't own the eastern king snake.
Right.
That would definitely be the one I would own if I could. But I have those two, and then my mom has a bearded dragon.
Okay, cool.
Can I have my snake picture?
Cool.
And my plans are, I'm going to get a pied male reticulated python, and then after that, I want to get more boas. I'm going to get a pair of pretty much everything that I keep, minus the ball python and the blood python. Some animals are strictly for display. And honestly, I have a guy who might want to trade that blood python for a Honduran. So nice. I might do that. Hondurans are one of the snakes that I really, really fell in love with. I had one a while back, and whatever caused it to pass away, it was fine one day, and then the next day I go in there, and it had passed away. It wasn't very old. From what I was told, it was only 2 years old.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess that kind of thing just happens. Stuff, and it wasn't like I got it from a bad breeder who had a sick collection or anything. I got it from a person who originally wanted to keep it as a pet. And I was like, I come in there to check on the snake, because, like I said, it was one of my favorite animals.
Yeah.
Not only was it, a really good eater, because that's always fun when you have an animal that's crazy about food. That's fun to me,
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about that thing was how it was when it would go to get in shed, it'd be cranky, and it literally it would try to get me every time, and it got me a couple of times. And I thought it was funny because, I used to freak out about getting bit. That was one of the things that, not necessarily, afraid of getting bit, but I guess, especially being new to the hobby at the time, was one of the things I worried about. I'm like, oh, this thing's going to bite me. And, I learned, as started keeping stuff Amazon tree boas and stuff like that, and at one point, I had gotten an 8-foot red-tailed boa, and
oh wow,
she was a big girl, and there's a funny story behind that. Actually, the lady that I got her from, she told me she originally was 4 to 5 feet, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then she told me, she's like, well, actually, I'm looking at it, and she might be a little bit bigger than 4 or 5 feet. She's probably around 6 feet. okay, that's not too big of a jump. I
Right.
get there, and this is like an 8 or 9 foot red tail
Oh
dog.
God.
And I'm like, lady, what
Wow.
about this 6 foot to you?
Wow.
And
Wow.
she's like, you can have her enclosure. I don't have anything I would need it for. I was like, okay, yeah,
Right.
I definitely need the enclosure because, I had to go back the next day and get her enclosure. So she stayed in a temporary little tub. And not a little tub, but I guess compared to an 8 foot snake, even that tub was small.
Mm-hmm.
So we went back and got her enclosure. We rebuilt it because my dad and I forgot how we took it apart. We built it. We put it up in my bedroom. It was like 8 by 4 by 4.
Yeah.
And my wife got so mad at me. She's like, "You got this big snake. Not only do you have this big snake in my room, but I don't have a majority of my room." I was like, "Yeah, well, my bad. I'll move it out." Well, anyway, we ended up, the room that currently is my snake room was originally used as a storage room.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's my snake room. We kind of have a garage outside that we store all our stuff in.
Yeah.
So we we moved everything out there, but unfortunately at the time I did not have the space for her, and I ended up having to give her to someone who could provide her with the space, let her out, and well, I ended up. Hey, feet are not meant to be run over. It hurts when you do that. So, I ended up after that. I got like 3 king snake, well, 4 technically. I had a banded, and then a 2 aberrant California king snakes, and I had too many California king snakes. Don't get me wrong, like I love king snakes, but after a while, I just kind of felt like I need something different. I need variety in my collection, and now I'm down to 1 California king snake. Like I said, the blood python, the ball python, the retic, and that's it.
Awesome.
Now, this was going to be a surprise because I was going to surprise a few people with hybrid babies, but I was going to do the hybrid between the ball python and the blood python. So I'm currently pairing those 2 up. Hopefully, I get some results. Well, and I have a hog nose. I forgot to mention that. I have a western hog nose.
Nice.
So
that's a pretty awesome collection, man.
Those are kind of my display.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, at the moment, and then, those are going to be like the stuff that people can hold, minus the blood python, like the ball python, the king snake, the retic, and the hognose. People can hold them. They're pretty well tempered. The blood python, I'm still working with, kind of getting him used to being dealt with. He did bite me, and this is funny. I was literally holding the snake, talking to my mom, and I'm like, I think he's going to bite me. I'm pretty sure he's going to bite me. And about that time, he got me underneath my pinky fingernail with his tooth. The tooth went underneath my fingernail. Thank God he's not very big, or else that really would have hurt.
It would have. And there's a lot. You can tell by their body language. You really can. I'm going to get caught up on the chat here just a minute. Battle says, hey, bro, I'd like to get in touch with you sometime since you're so close. We will do that. Battle, go find me on Instagram. It's WNC Venom. And send me a message. Or on TikTok. Either one. You can send me a message on either one of those. Or just find me on Facebook at Joshua McKinney. That's me. I'm Joshua McKinney on Facebook. He says squams are my faves. They just they're personalistic or individualistic. They are very individualistic. I have 2 squams and I love them both. Squams are beautiful snakes. They look like dragons and I love that.
So, seeing as how my state doesn't allow me to keep anything other than native venomous, will enlighten me on some of your favorite your guys' favorite stuff. Like some people from the chat and you as well.
Like native or
I've never really gotten to see.
or exotics or just anything.
Like what?
My
So exotics,
yeah,
really in general, just whatever your favorite is.
my favorites honestly are I love the blue Enceladus. Any of the Tremorosaurus species are my faves, dude. I love. There's something about Asian pit vipers, especially the Tremorosaurus and the wags.
The classic green Enceladus are awesome.
Mm-hmm. They've got those big heads, those big triangular shaped heads, and they just got that mean mug. They're so cool looking. I love bush vipers. I love squams. I love mambas. Monocle cobras are not my favorite. They're not my favorite to keep. The Kuthia that I have are both just insane. They have crazy feeding responses. They're crazy defensive. They strike and bite constantly. My big male Mo, the big albino that I have, has actually spit once or twice. Like, he is just insane. I don't know if you knew that they could do that or not, but monocle cobras can spit venom. They sure can.
I've heard something about them doing that.
Yeah. Mo has spit venom at me before.
Even though, like, don't get me wrong, like, I would love to be able to eventually keep stuff like that, but I've never really done too much research on them just because, there's no chance of me owning them or I wouldn't see them in the wild. So, I mean, I've done some basic research, but, like, not really anything too deep.
Yeah. I love the Bitis species. Gaboon vipers are amazing. I love Gaboon vipers. I love rhino vipers, and I would love to have a mountain viper eventually.
What is the viper that has the tail that looks like a spider?
Yeah,
I think it was from Iraq or Iran.
That's some kind. I'll have to look it up. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Personally, as far as vipers go, I can list you like my top 5, and I'll do 2 lists of vipers. I'll do like as far as exotics and things that I want to keep and have owned. Now, like I said, my state doesn't allow me to keep all the cool stuff you guys get to keep. So what I'd say my favorite like exotic vipers would be is I would say number 5 would be the Mengshan.
I love Mangs.
Number 4, I would say number 4 would be. This is because there's a lot of stuff that I like, but I can list you 5 ones that I like: the Mengshans, Enceladus, Bushmasters.
Oh yeah, I love the Lachesis.
Some of the species of rattlesnake.
There we go. I'm losing you again. Uh-oh. You're cutting out pretty bad. Cutting out pretty bad. So there is the spider tail. While Chris comes back, we can work on his connection. Almost can hear you now. This is the spider tail sand viper. I love this guy.
Okay.
There we go. You're back now. I got you. I was just showing the guests the spider tail horned viper that we were talking earlier. That is a crazy. Isn't it crazy that nature does that? Like, what the hell, man? That is insane that nature
And
does that.
one thing that I thought was really, really cool, the way that, so things that prey on very fast prey, like the way that preys on, your birds and stuff, and how like sea snakes prey on fish, their venom is so much more potent than everything else is around it. Like,
Yes.
their
Yeah.
venom has to be fast acting and potent.
Yep, it sure does. That's why your mambas are
So
mambas and taipan.
The video that I saw, it kind of wiggles its tail, kind of like similar to the way cottonmouth and copperheads do when they're using their forget what the actual
lure
term for their tail is, but
using it as a lure.
yeah, the something lure, but right. But this is similar to that is what they do with their tail, and they'll lure birds in, and when the bird gets close to the tail, they'll pop out and they'll get it. Any snake will try. They'll try to hold on, but there's a chance that, the bird can get away. But I'm pretty sure those guys being as highly adaptive as they are, they'll be able to find whatever.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with the harshness of the habitat. The snakes that live in your more formidable habitats tend to have more toxic venom because food is scarce and they need to secure their prey very quickly. Very quickly. Battle, I've never seen one of those in person either. And those snakes are from Iran, the spider-tailed horned viper. But
Iran.
Yeah, they're from Iran.
That's what I was thinking. It was Iran.
Yep. Well, man, this has been awesome.
I bet that's what a lot of the people that see them do.
Oh yeah, for sure. But well, I'm going to get off here and call it a night because I am killed. We've been streaming for an hour now, so I'm going to try and keep these short and sweet, as short as possible anyway. The other podcasts we do, sometimes we go for 2 and 3 hours when we're talking politics and philosophy and other stuff. But this one I'm going to try and keep it nice and short and light, as short as possible anyway. But Chris, thank you so much for joining us, man. We've really enjoyed this. I've thoroughly enjoyed hanging out and talking. And everybody out there, please share this, like the video, give us a thumbs up. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it really helps in the algorithm. It will push this video out there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And I have merch. You can get some shirts here. This is one of them. This has 3 of my snakes. This has got my rhino viper. This is all my betta species. So my rhino viper, my gaboon viper, and the puff adder on here. And I have merch, wncvenom.com, shopwncvenom.com. You can get some merch there. I've got all my snakes on my t-shirts and hoodies and all kinds of apparel. Chris, anything you want to shout out before we call it a night?
Sorry, I had to go check on my son. What was?
Oh, you're good. I just said, is there anything you want to shout out before we call it a night?
Just give you guys just wanted to say shout out my guy here, and don't forget to leave a like, and definitely I'll hopefully be back on the podcast again, and by then I'll have somewhat of my YouTube channel set up.
Yeah,
I probably won't post any videos until I have a decent quality camera. And,
I started posting with literally my phone camera. I mean, dude, if you want to do it, I say go for it.
All right.
I say go for it. Well, everybody, thanks so much for watching.
All right.
Chris, it was a pleasure, man. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And we will see you all next time.